In the quiet heart of Scandinavia, a decision is made that sends a seismic shock across the globe. The list of nominees for the world's most prestigious Peace Prize is released. 5 names. But one name stops the world in its tracks. Ibrahim Traoré. He is not a career politician. He did not rise through the ranks of elite institutions. He came to power not through elections, but through conviction. And now, in an unexpected twist of history, he stands as a frontrunner for the 2020 Nobel Peace Prize. Wait, let's be clear. The man we're talking about, Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso, came to power in September 2022 through a military coup. In the language of international diplomacy, that makes him an autocrat, a dictator. So how could his name and the words Nobel Peace Prize even appear in the same sentence? To understand this apparent contradiction, we have to treat this story not as breaking news, but as a fascinating what-if scenario, a geopolitical thought experiment that reveals more about our own beliefs than it does about one man. The question isn't just, could he win? The real question is, what would it mean if he did? To his supporters, the answer is simple. Traoré is being recognized not for his methods, but for his results. His battlefield was hunger. His revolution was about alleviating poverty, educating students, and restoring dignity. He calls it practical peace, peace sown in the fields, not negotiated in conference rooms. He took on corruption, slashing bureaucratic excess, and redirecting funds into the country's backbone, education and health. Within 24 months, a staggering 2,400 new schools and 700-odd healthcare centers were built, a scale and speed unmatched in the region. He ensured 95% of rural primary school children received free lunches, made from locally produced food. On May 4, 2025, he pardoned 1,100 former militants and integrated them into the Farmers of Peace program, an initiative lauded by the United Nations as a model that could be replicated globally. These aren't empty promises. This is a tangible, lived peace built on the dignity of work and national unity. The numbers are impressive, undeniably so. On paper, this looks like a national miracle. But miracles, especially in geopolitics, often have hidden costs. So, the uncomfortable question must be asked. What is the price of this practical peace? This is the elephant in the room, the other side of the coin that the cheering crowds don't want to talk about. Where is the free press in Burkina Faso today? What happened to the journalists and opposition leaders who questioned Traoré's methods? His government has promised a return to constitutional order. But when? The promise of a future election remains vague. For the West, this is the ultimate red line. Progress cannot come at the expense of liberty, or can it? And what about the economy? Seizing farmland and kicking out foreign mining corporations is celebrated as economic sovereignty. But it can also lead to capital flight, sanctions, and long-term isolation. And then there's the growing relationship with Russia. Is this true independence, or is Traoré simply trading one set of foreign partners for another, more controversial one? These aren't just details. They are the core of the pragmatist's dilemma. Is a well-fed, stable nation under a strong man preferable to a chaotic, impoverished democracy? There is no easy answer. These are valid questions, seen through a Western lens of process and principle. But from the heart of the Vatican and across the global South, they are seeing something else entirely. They are seeing a moral crusade. An unexpected voice echoes from Rome. On July 1, 2025, Pope Leo XIV, a champion of social justice, speaks of Traoré. When I pray for peace, he says, the face of a young soldier from Burkina Faso appears in my mind. He does not preach through scriptures, but through sweat and soil. He acts as if the world's poor are his sanctuary. The Vatican formally nominates him for the prize. In Brazil, President Costa is more direct. I called him the new Sankara, he declares, but he corrected me. He said, I'm just a farmer in uniform. That's when I knew he deserved the Nobel. Let's analyze these endorsements. Why would the Pope, the head of a global church, champion a military leader. Because for decades, the Vatican's social justice doctrine has increasingly prioritized tangible outcomes for the poor: food, health, shelter, over abstract political processes. And Brazil's support? That's a clear signal of global South solidarity. It's a political statement, a deliberate challenge to the old colonial powers in Europe. It's Africa and Latin America saying, "We will define our own heroes." This forces the West into a corner. France's president remarks cautiously, "We cannot ignore the results." The U.S. Secretary of State says, "This is an opportunity to rethink what 21st century peace means." This isn't praise. This is the nervous language of a world order realizing the ground is shifting beneath its feet. They are being forced to acknowledge a new, uncomfortable geopolitical reality. But, far from the corridors of power, the verdict is already in. For the people of Burkina Faso, the news broke like a sudden rain at the end of a long, dry season. A hand-painted banner stretched between two trees reads, "We no longer beg. Now the world comes to us." Mothers weep with relief. Their children now attend the new schools Traoré built. They no longer fear the thunder of militant gunfire. Across the Sahel, in Niger and Mali, celebrations echo. The message is simple. If a country ranked among the world's poorest can reclaim its dignity, so can they. And here we reach the heart of the matter. For a population that has known nothing but decades of poverty, corruption, and terror, the Western promise of democracy can feel hollow and abstract. A full stomach, a safe school for your child, a road that doesn't get you attacked, that is tangible. That is real. This is the core of Ibrahim Traoré's popular support. But the fundamental question remains. Is this a new sustainable social contract? Or is it a temporary fix, entirely reliant on the charisma and control of one man? On December 10th, the eyes of the world will turn to Oslo. If awarded, Traoré would become a global symbol of what some are calling practical peace. Peace not as the absence of war, but the presence of justice, dignity, and land in the hands of those who till it. And so, we are left with the Oslo question. But it's no longer about one man or one prize. It's about us. What do we, as a global community, truly value more? The purity of the democratic process, even when it's flawed and often fails the poorest among us. Or the tangible, life-saving results delivered by a strong man, even if they come at the cost of freedoms we hold dear. The nomination of Ibrahim Traoré, whether real or, in this case, hypothetical, doesn't give us an answer. It holds up a mirror to the deep contradictions of our time. It forces us to look inward and decide what peace and progress truly mean in the 21st century. What do you think? Is this a new model for leadership or a dangerous precedent? Tell us in the comments.